You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Park Ranger Locked On Coogs here talking about Houston's big win over Utah. Now, I have some people in the chat here saying things along the lines of just like football, and it is nice to be able to say that if I'm being really honest. Where to go right there was 2-0 basketball and football. We're going to keep that thing rolling. TI 7791 adds that there was no drop off, which is clear. Impressed him how much everyone played in sync. I obviously agree with that. I think they played really, really well. We call it playing on a rope when I've been coaching, right? Like you're all connected with a rope or something. The rotations, that is. The defense assignments were, and offensively the ball did not stagnate for the most part. I liked that a lot. The ball did stick a little bit with the second group. The young guys came in, but that's where we're at. As far as what happened to Sharp here, I got a comment. We mentioned it at the top of the show. That sounds like it was a rolled ankle in practice. We're getting more information obviously as we get closer, but I would imagine that they might have had some idea of what was about to happen. It was precautionary. We shall see. And Kansas is next, as so many people are pointing out. And for what it's worth, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but Kansas is kind of in their own rock fight in a close win in Fort Worth, again, or a close game in Fort Worth against TCU. As we're recording this right this moment, it's a 6-point game. I don't know if that one will finish while we record, but I just want to keep an eye on Kansas. A whole lot different team at home. Houston's got to go there this weekend, but it would be kind of nice to watch someone beat up on them before Houston had their turn. All right, so I said that this segment was going to be about what Houston can pull for games like that Kansas game, what Houston can pull out of a big, honestly, blowout team that shouldn't be in the same league. And frankly, jokes on Utah because they talk about not wanting to be in the same league. And like, what do you pull out of that game as a staff, as a team, as a program? Because you can't not get better today. You got Kansas this weekend. Again, Kansas maybe is not the same team they've been before. Maybe you feel like you have more talent. Winning at Kansas is hard. Winning at West Virginia next week will be hard. That's a hard place to play. Texas Tech has upset some people already this year. McCaslin's kind of got it rolling. They're scoring a lot of points up there in Lubbock. And you've also got Baylor coming to your place early in February. And so that's a lot of games for the next couple of weeks that you need to be ready for, right? And so what you're going to take out of this one, I think, first of all, is the minute distribution was in your favor. And by that, I mean that like it wasn't like everyone had to, you had to play your starters for 38 minutes to have a chance in this one. Pretty evenly distributed. Arceneaux played 33 minutes, which I will argue in a second is a good thing, but that was the most by kind of a lot. The next highest was Uzan played 25, Roberts played 25. I mentioned Arceneaux played 33, most for any starter, but he also isn't typically a starter, so he had to get some of those same rotational minutes at the end of the bench when those guys were in the game later. And for what it's worth, I don't know that I would have done it, full disclosure, but Samson is Samson and I am I. But I do think that it is worth pointing out that significantly passed what his minutes restriction unofficially was to start the season, right? Terrance was on the floor a lot and made an impact on all of it. And so I'd say one thing to take away from this is that Terrance can play 30 minutes. I would say that your guys are otherwise healthy, assuming that Emmanuel's ankle is not the kind of thing that's super serious. You're getting out of this game with the same health you came into it with. You also found out that, he didn't, I don't want to say like they shot poorly. As a team, they did shoot just 27.8% from the three-point line. Admittedly, that's mostly because the bench did not make a three. And the starters themselves, Uzan was 2 of 4, Cryer was 3 of 4, Arceneaux was just 0 of 3, right? But even with that right there is 5 of 11. You take out Arceneaux, that's Uzan and Cryer are both 5 of 8. That's pretty strong. I thought you had a particularly efficient night out of Javier Francis as well. 17 minutes, 6 points, couple rebounds. I thought he was a force inside. I was surprised he just had one block. I feel like he had at least a handful of shots that like they shot over his hand and missed because of the deal there. What I really liked about when Houston, used their big guys in this one, Tugler, Roberts, and Francis. When Utah went zone, Houston was able to throw those guys in the mid post and kind of let them work. It was a really good game for Roberts and Francis in that way. And I feel like that's going to take away from this as well. There are going to be moments against Kansas, moments against Baylor, moments against Tech, where you're going to have to kind of throw the ball in there and let them take advantage of something to kind of make sure that the opponent is covering everything, right? You can't rely on just the sharpshooting of Cryer and Sharp, no pun intended, forever, right? And so having those as options is really, really important. I also think you understood that the switching defense you can play. Obviously, it's not the most talented sides at Utah, but a lot of your smaller guys were able to work in the post, work out in the post, and play with bigger players. Now, Hunter Dickinson is kind of a roller coaster at Kansas, and when we talk to Derek Johnson later this week, I'm sure he'll elaborate some, but he's had a weird career there, a weird part of his career there. He played really well in the first game Houston played against them last year. Hunter Dickinson did. And I think you feel like you can run a few different looks at him now after seeing your guys switch and play the switching game so well. Again, no one at Utah is as good as Hunter Dickinson is, but you feel better about what you get if you get guards on that kind of stuff in this game. I thought you saw a couple different times it looked like Malik Wilson can fly, and that's always a good thing to take away. I thought in watching the young guys, and actually I want to ask this to the live audience, because this is a live reaction show on YouTube. If you want to be on the next one, make sure you hit subscribe to the bell so you know we're live. We're live after games. I would ask, of those young guys, Mercy Miller, Cordell Jefferson, Lath, who stuck out as like that guy's close to being ready? I think to up until today, most people said Mercy was the most so. I still think he's really close. I kind of felt like Said looked every bit able to handle a lot of what his role would be with the older guys. Said had just a point, but he did have 5 rebounds and 2 blocks. Pretty big enforcer, very literally big on the inside. I think part of the reason there is also Said just like physically built already. He's so well built already. He's able to play with a tenacity and physicality that other guys have to get ready to play with. Obviously, Cordell came in. I thought he had a good couple looks. Neither one fell, but I thought he did a good job while he was in there. Mercy, again, we've all thought is like ready offensively and getting super close defensively. I didn't see any moment in this one where there's like an obvious rotation miss, something like that. And for Mercy, that's a big step up from where he was when he came into the season. He was missing rotations against cupcake teams at the start of the season, I thought. And that's just changing high-end high school basketball to high-end Division I basketball, right? But played really, really well, I thought, as well. I just feel like Said's physical tools, if you needed one of those 3 to come in a close game in Lawrence this weekend or against Baylor in a few weeks, or you just, hey, I need 3 minutes. I felt like Said gave them more translatable things to what he'll be able to do. Now, obviously, very different position. The power forward center position is a spot that's easy on paper, hard on hardwood. It's hard to do physically, right? So we'll see. But I felt pretty encouraged by what Said did in that basketball game. Said Lath is also a monstrous man, and I don't want to offend him or ruffle his feathers. Now, I will say some of the biggest things came out of this game might have actually been a halftime announcement of some blue uniforms heading Houston's way, which I want to talk about in 1 second as we get further into our live post-game reaction here, Locked on Coogs.